Welcome to this powerful collection of I Remember When affirmations based on Neville Goddard's transformative technique. This method works by having you mentally live from the end, imagining you've already achieved financial comfort and abundance, then looking back at your past struggles as distant memories. The magic happens when you genuinely feel as though you're remembering actual experiences rather than just repeating words. As you hear each statement, allow yourself to feel the relief, gratitude, and satisfaction of someone who has moved from financial stress to financial peace. These affirmations are designed for people ready to step into true financial abundance, having plenty of money, not just enough to get by. This is about creating wealth that gives you real choices, freedom, and the ability to live generously while building a prosperous future. Listen to these daily, preferably when you're relaxed and can truly feel into each statement. Let yourself experience the emotion of having already transformed your financial reality. Remember, according to Neville Goddard, assumption creates reality. So assume the feeling of financial abundance as your natural state. Now, let's begin. I remember when I thought wealth was for other people, before I realized it was my birthright. I remember when I used to check my bank balance nervously before money became a non-issue. I remember when I used to count every penny before abundance flowed to me effortlessly. I remember when I lived paycheck to paycheck before multiple income streams opened up. I remember when I feared unexpected expenses before I had more than enough for everything. I remember when I used to decline invitations due to cost, before money ceased to be a consideration. I remember when I postponed purchases before I could afford anything I desired. I remember when I stressed about bills before they became insignificant amounts. I remember when I worked so hard for so little before wealth came to me with ease. I remember when I used to worry about money before I discovered how abundant I truly am. I remember when I had no emergency fund before I built a comfortable financial cushion. I remember when unexpected bills terrified me before I had money set aside for surprises. I remember when I avoided looking at my account balance before it became a source of joy. I remember when saving seemed impossible before money began accumulating naturally. I remember when I lived in financial anxiety before peace and security became my norm. I remember when I couldn't imagine financial stability before steady abundance flowed to me. I remember when every purchase required careful thought before spending became stress-free. I remember when I felt behind financially before I found my perfect pace of prosperity. I remember when I compared my situation to others before I embraced my unique path to abundance. I remember when financial goals seemed unreachable before they manifested with ease. I remember when I shopped with a strict budget before I could buy what I needed comfortably. I remember when I chose the cheapest option, always, before quality became affordable. I remember when eating out was a rare treat before I could enjoy meals without worry. I remember when my car repairs caused panic before I had money for maintenance. I remember when my living space felt cramped before I found my perfect, comfortable home. I remember when vacations required months of saving before I could travel when I wanted. I remember when name brands seemed wasteful before I could choose based on preference. I remember when I waited for sales for everything before I could buy things when needed. I remember when new clothes were rare purchases before I could refresh my wardrobe easily. I remember when entertainment meant free activities before I could enjoy any experience I wanted. I remember when I couldn't help family financially before I could support those I love. I remember when charity felt like a burden before giving became a natural joy. I remember when I felt jealous of others' success before I celebrated, knowing mine was coming. I remember when I held on to every dollar before sharing felt safe and abundant. I remember when I felt guilty about wanting more money before I embraced my worthy desires. I remember when I calculated tips carefully before I could tip generously without stress. I remember when gifts had to be small before I could give what truly mattered. I remember when I had to borrow from others before I became someone who could lend. I remember when I said I can't afford it before I can manage that became natural. I remember when I felt different from comfortable people before I joined them naturally. I remember when bills felt overwhelming before I could pay them without stress. I remember when my credit was a worry before my financial standing became solid. I remember when I needed to borrow money before I had enough for my needs. I remember when money decisions kept me awake before financial peace became natural. I remember when economic news scared me before I felt secure regardless of conditions. I remember when I tracked every expense before money flowed smoothly through my life. I remember when I delayed purchases, hoping for better prices before I could buy when ready. I remember when I worked overtime just to stay afloat before my regular income was sufficient. I remember when I wished for others' financial ease before I created my own comfortable life. I remember when managing money felt complicated before simplicity brought me abundance. I remember when my paycheck barely covered my needs before money flowed more freely. I remember when I worked extra hours just to get by before abundance came with less effort. I remember when raises seemed impossible before my income grew consistently. I remember when I felt stuck in my job before better opportunities opened up. I remember when I doubted my worth before I received what I truly deserved. I remember when I accepted less than I wanted before fair compensation became normal. I remember when work felt like a struggle before it became a source of prosperity. I remember when I feared losing my job before security and stability found me. I remember when side income seemed necessary before my main income became sufficient. I remember when I felt underpaid before abundance reflected my true value. I remember when I believed money was the root of evil before I understood it amplifies good. I remember when I thought wanting money was selfish before I realized it serves everyone. I remember when I felt unworthy of wealth before I claimed my abundant inheritance. I remember when I feared money would change me before I discovered it revealed my true self. I remember when I thought money was scarce before I saw infinite abundance everywhere. I remember when I competed for resources before I understood there's enough for all. I remember when I criticized the wealthy before I became one of them gracefully. I remember when I thought money was hard to make before it flowed like water. I remember when I believed I had to sacrifice for wealth before ease became my way. I remember when I thought money corrupted people before I used it to spread love. I remember when I focused on lack before abundance became my constant experience. I remember when money caused stress before it brought only peace and joy. I remember when I doubted my financial future before prosperity became inevitable. I remember when I felt poor despite having enough before I felt rich with everything. I remember when I chased money desperately before it chased me with devotion. I remember when I thought I needed to earn wealth before I realized I simply had to accept it. I remember when abundance was a dream, before it became my living reality every single day. I remember when I thought wealth was for other people, before I realized it was my birthright. I remember when I used to check my bank balance nervously, before money became a non-issue. I remember when I used to count every penny, before abundance flowed to me effortlessly. I remember when I lived paycheck to paycheck, before multiple income streams opened up. I remember when I feared unexpected expenses, before I had more than enough for everything. I remember when I used to decline invitations due to cost, before money ceased to be a consideration. I remember when I postponed purchases, before I could afford anything I desired. I remember when I stressed about bills, before they became insignificant amounts. I remember when I worked so hard for so little, before wealth came to me with ease. I remember when I used to worry about money, before I discovered how abundant I truly am. I remember when I had no emergency fund, before I built a comfortable financial cushion. I remember when unexpected bills terrified me, before I had money set aside for surprises. I remember when I avoided looking at my account balance, before it became a source of joy. I remember when saving seemed impossible, before money began accumulating naturally. I remember when I lived in financial anxiety, before peace and security became my norm. I remember when I couldn't imagine financial stability, before steady abundance flowed to me. I remember when every purchase required careful thought, before spending became stress-free. I remember when I felt behind financially, before I found my perfect pace of prosperity. I remember when I compared my situation to others, before I embraced my unique path to abundance. I remember when financial goals seemed unreachable, before they manifested with ease. I remember when I shopped with a strict budget, before I could buy what I needed comfortably. I remember when I chose the cheapest option, always, before quality became affordable. I remember when eating out was a rare treat, before I could enjoy meals without worry. I remember when my car repairs caused panic, before I had money for maintenance. I remember when my living space felt cramped, before I found my perfect, comfortable home. I remember when vacations required months of saving, before I could travel when I wanted. I remember when name brands seemed wasteful, before I could choose based on preference. I remember when I waited for sales for everything, before I could buy things when needed. I remember when new clothes were rare purchases, before I could refresh my wardrobe easily. I remember when entertainment meant free activities, before I could enjoy any experience I wanted. I remember when I couldn't help family financially, before I could support those I love. I remember when charity felt like a burden, before giving became a natural joy. I remember when I felt jealous of others' success, before I celebrated, knowing mine was coming. I remember when I held on to every dollar, before sharing felt safe and abundant. I remember when I felt guilty about wanting more money, before I embraced my worthy desires. I remember when I calculated tips carefully, before I could tip generously without stress. I remember when gifts had to be small, before I could give what truly mattered. I remember when I had to borrow from others, before I became someone who could lend. I remember when I said I can't afford it, before I can manage that became natural. I remember when I felt different from comfortable people, before I joined them naturally. I remember when bills felt overwhelming, before I could pay them without stress. I remember when my credit was a worry, before my financial standing became solid. I remember when I needed to borrow money, before I had enough for my needs. I remember when money decisions kept me awake, before financial peace became natural. I remember when economic news scared me, before I felt secure regardless of conditions. I remember when I tracked every expense, before money flowed smoothly through my life. I remember when I delayed purchases, hoping for better prices, before I could buy when ready. I remember when I worked overtime just to stay afloat, before my regular income was sufficient. I remember when I wished for others' financial ease, before I created my own comfortable life. I remember when managing money felt complicated, before simplicity brought me abundance. I remember when my paycheck barely covered my needs, before money flowed more freely. I remember when I worked extra hours just to get by, before abundance came with less effort. I remember when raises seemed impossible, before my income grew consistently. I remember when I felt stuck in my job, before better opportunities opened up. I remember when I doubted my worth, before I received what I truly deserved. I remember when I accepted less than I wanted, before fair compensation became normal. I remember when work felt like a struggle, before it became a source of prosperity. I remember when I feared losing my job, before security and stability found me. I remember when side income seemed necessary, before my main income became sufficient. I remember when I felt underpaid, before abundance reflected my true value. I remember when I believed money was the root of evil, before I understood it amplifies good. I remember when I thought wanting money was selfish, before I realized it serves everyone. I remember when I felt unworthy of wealth, before I claimed my abundant inheritance. I remember when I feared money would change me, before I discovered it revealed my true self. I remember when I thought money was scarce, before I saw infinite abundance everywhere. I remember when I competed for resources, before I understood there's enough for all. I remember when I criticized the wealthy, before I became one of them gracefully. I remember when I thought money was hard to make, before it flowed like water. I remember when I believed I had to sacrifice for wealth, before ease became my way. I remember when I thought money corrupted people, before I used it to spread love. I remember when I focused on lack, before abundance became my constant experience. I remember when money caused stress, before it brought only peace and joy. I remember when I doubted my financial future, before prosperity became inevitable. I remember when I felt poor despite having enough, before I felt rich with everything. I remember when I chased money desperately, before it chased me with devotion. I remember when I thought I needed to earn wealth, before I realized I simply had to accept it. I remember when abundance was a dream, before it became my living reality every single day. Congratulations on completing these powerful, I remember when affirmations. You've just spent time mentally rehearsing your abundant future, as if it were already your past. And that's exactly how transformation begins. Remember, consistency is key with Neville Goddard's techniques. The more you practice assuming the feeling of already having financial abundance, the more natural this state becomes. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and reality. So each time you genuinely felt these statements, you were literally rewiring your relationship with money. Don't just listen to these affirmations, truly feel them. Let yourself experience the relief, the joy, the security of financial abundance. When you catch yourself worrying about money, return to these feelings. When you see evidence of lack, remind yourself of your abundant truth. Your financial transformation isn't just possible. From this moment forward, it's inevitable. You've already claimed it by assuming the feeling. Now watch as your outer world shifts to match your inner conviction. Keep assuming, keep feeling, keep knowing that abundance is your natural state. The money you desire is already on its way to you. Thank you for joining me in this powerful practice. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more abundance content, and share your manifestation success stories in the comments below. Until next time, stay abundant.
My friend, you may not see it right now, but everything is working together for your good. The pieces that look scattered, the doors that closed, the moments that broke you, they are all being woven by divine hands into something breathtaking. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. When God works, He often works in silence. He doesn't announce the process, He perfects it. What you call confusion is divine construction. What you call delay is spiritual alignment. God is rearranging the unseen realm to make everything fit your highest good. There are moments in life when the path feels uncertain, when what you prayed for seems far away. That's when the temptation comes to doubt, to question, to worry. But trust this truth. Faith begins where understanding ends. Faith doesn't need to see evidence, it creates it. When you believe that everything is already working out, life starts reflecting that belief. Circumstances bend to your inner conviction. The universe mirrors your inner trust. You begin to walk not as one hoping for favor, but as one carrying it. So stop asking when and start saying thank you. Every challenge, every closed door, every heartbreak, it's not rejection, it's redirection. The divine knows the path that will bring you the greatest fulfillment. What feels like delay is really preparation for divine timing. You may think God has forgotten your prayer, but He's actually protecting it. He's shaping you into the person who can hold the blessing that's coming. The seed doesn't question the soil, it simply trusts the process. It knows that what's buried today will bloom tomorrow. So today, release your worry. Let go of the how and the when. Your only job is to believe, to dwell in the feeling that it's already done. Close your eyes and feel the reality of your answered prayer. Feel the peace of knowing that God has gone before you. Walk as if your miracle is already manifesting, because it is. You are not waiting on the blessing. The blessing is waiting on your trust. Every moment, every change, every unseen shift is working for your favor. So rest in this truth. You are guided, you are favored, and nothing is against you. The process may not look perfect, but it is divine. And one day soon you'll look back and realize every delay, every detour, every disappointment was God's perfect choreography bringing you into destiny. Trust the process. It's all working in your favor. It always has been. Everything that happens in your life, both the good and the challenging, is part of a greater orchestration, a divine rearrangement that is silently unfolding in your favor. It's easy to trust God when things make sense, when doors open smoothly, when opportunities align perfectly. But the real test of faith begins when the pieces seem scattered, when progress feels distant, and when your prayers appear unanswered. Yet even then, behind the confusion, God is at work, arranging every detail with precision and purpose. What looks like a setback is often a setup for something greater. The delays you face are not denials, they are divine strategies designed to position you exactly where you need to be. Every closed door, every unexpected turn, every disappointment has meaning. There are moments when it feels like nothing is happening, but that silence is not absence, it's preparation. God is shifting circumstances, moving people, and aligning opportunities that you cannot yet see. The unseen rearrangement is happening in the invisible realm long before it appears in the visible one. Your responsibility is not to figure out how it's happening, but to trust that it is. Faith means believing that while you cannot see the full picture, the artist never stops painting. Think of it like a master weaver at work. From the front, the tapestry looks beautiful and complete, but from the back, all you see are tangled threads, knots, and chaos. Your life may look like the back of that tapestry right now. You see confusion, frustration, and delays, but God sees the front side. He sees the design, the masterpiece, the finished work. Every wrong turn is being woven into something that will ultimately make sense. Nothing is wasted, not a single tear, not a single moment. There's divine intelligence behind every event, no matter how random it appears. That job you lost, it's making room for one that fits your purpose. That relationship that ended, it's clearing space for one that will honor your worth. That opportunity that fell through, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God's rearrangement always involves movement, and movement often feels uncomfortable. But remember, discomfort is the evidence that transformation is taking place. When you learn to rest in that truth, peace replaces panic. You stop fighting against what's leaving and start welcoming what's coming. You begin to see that every delay has meaning and every detour carries direction. The unseen rearrangement of your life isn't about punishment, it's about preparation. God is making sure that when the blessing arrives, you are ready to receive it fully, without fear, doubt, or limitation. So, even when nothing seems to make sense, stay anchored in faith. Something divine is happening behind the scenes. The doors that close are leading you toward the ones that matter. The pain you feel today is creating the strength you'll need tomorrow. What looks like chaos is actually choreography. God is not late, He's strategic. And when the rearrangement is complete, you'll see how every piece was always working in your favor. Life is not responding to what you want, it's responding to what you believe. Every experience, every encounter, every outcome is a reflection of the inner state you carry. The outer world is like a mirror. It faithfully reflects the images of your inner convictions, thoughts, and emotions. When you trust that God is working for you, your vibration changes, your energy shifts, and the circumstances around you begin to realign with that faith. What you hold within, your faith, your peace, your certainty, becomes the blueprint that shapes the world you see outside of you. This faith, you cannot walk in doubt internally and expect clarity externally. You cannot carry fear and attract peace. You cannot live in limitation and expect expansion. The law of life is simple but profound. As within, so without. What's going on inside you is constantly being echoed in the outer world. When your heart is filled with trust, gratitude, and assurance, your environment starts to mirror that frequency. Doors open, people respond differently, Opportunities find you effortlessly, not because you're forcing them, but because your inner faith has become magnetic. When you believe that God is working behind the scenes, you stop striving and start aligning. You no longer chase outcomes, you attract them through your certainty. You begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a spiritual reflection of your consciousness. Every challenge that arises becomes an opportunity to practice faith. Every delay becomes a lesson in surrender. Every moment becomes a chance to choose trust over fear. Imagine holding a lens covered in dust and trying to look through it. Everything outside looks unclear, not because the world is unclear, but because your lens is. Your inner state is that lens. When it's clouded by worry, doubt, or resentment, the world appears harsh and uncertain. But when your inner lens is clear, with faith, peace, and gratitude, the same world begins to look radiant and full of possibility. The outer world doesn't change first, you do. And once you do, the world must follow suit. That's why inner work is spiritual work. Prayer, meditation, gratitude, and faith aren't just rituals, they are acts of realignment. They tune your inner frequency to the divine rhythm of favor and grace. The more you dwell in the feeling that God is for you, the more life bends to confirm it. Circumstances shift, people appear, solutions unfold, all reflecting the conviction that already lives inside you. If your outer world feels chaotic, don't try to fix the mirror, clean the reflection, adjust your inner state. Affirm peace even when you don't see it. Give thanks even when nothing looks right. Hold the inner picture of your desired outcome and let your heart rest in the assurance that it is already done. When your inner belief aligns with divine truth, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. So, choose faith over fear, gratitude over worry, and certainty over doubt. Trust that God is always working in your favor, and your world will begin to reflect that trust. The moment you change within, everything outside of you begins to shift. Faith is not the absence of reason, it is the presence of divine vision. It is the bridge that connects where you are to where you are destined to be. Faith stands in the gap between the unseen promise and its visible manifestation. It doesn't demand proof, it creates it. Faith is the language of the unseen, the vibration that communicates directly with the divine. When you walk by faith, you are not walking in darkness. You are walking in higher sight, seeing through the eyes of spirit rather than the limitations of the senses. The senses will always tell you what is, but faith tells you what is becoming. Your circumstances may whisper lack, but faith declares abundance. The world may show delay, but faith affirms divine timing. The doctor's report may read impossible, but faith answers back, with God, all things are possible. Faith doesn't ignore reality, it transcends it. It recognizes that the visible world is only a shadow of a deeper truth, one that is still forming beneath the surface of what you can see. When you believe, truly believe, you begin to align with the creative power that governs all things. Faith is your agreement with the unseen reality that already exists in the mind of God. Every answered prayer, every manifestation, every miracle first existed in that invisible realm before it ever appeared in the physical world. Faith is the bridge that allows that unseen blessing to cross over into your lived experience. Without faith, the bridge remains incomplete. With faith, the bridge becomes solid beneath your feet. Walking by faith means you no longer need to see the entire path. You trust the one who designed it. You take each step in confidence, knowing that even if you can't see the next stone, it will appear beneath your foot at the right moment. Faith is a decision to move forward even when the evidence is not yet visible, because you trust that God is arranging everything on your behalf. Faith is not passive, it's an active stance of certainty. It is holding the feeling of the answered prayer before it arrives. It is giving thanks for the victory before the battle is over. It is standing firm in peace while everything around you seems unstable. The world calls it delusion, heaven calls it alignment. Faith transforms your energy, your perception, and your outcomes. It magnetizes blessings because it operates in harmony with divine order. When you live by faith, you live in constant cooperation with the unseen hand that moves mountains, parts seas, and opens doors that logic says should remain closed. You no longer strive to make things happen. You allow them to unfold. Faith turns waiting into preparation and uncertainty into expectation. So even when life feels uncertain, keep walking. Even when you can't see the end, keep believing. Your faith is building the bridge under your steps. What begins in the invisible must one day manifest in the visible. Trust the unseen process, because faith has already gone ahead of you and made the way clear. Delays are one of the greatest tests of faith. They stretch you, refine you, and reveal what you truly believe about God's timing. It's easy to trust when everything flows smoothly, but when you're in the in-between, the place where nothing seems to be moving, you begin to question whether the promise will ever come to pass. Yet what feels like delay is not a denial, it is divine preparation. God often conceals his blessings in seasons of waiting, because the waiting is where the real transformation happens. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up the next day to see if it's growing. You trust the process. You know that beneath the surface something powerful is taking place, even if your eyes cannot see it. The same is true in your spiritual life. When God places a promise in your heart, it takes time to grow. The soil of your soul must be cultivated, your faith must be strengthened, and your character must be shaped to carry your praying for. A delay is never wasted time. It's preparation for divine fulfillment. In the waiting, God works on the unseen areas of your life. He refines your patience, teaches you surrender, and strengthens your trust. If you received everything you asked for instantly, your faith would never mature. The waiting builds depth. It develops spiritual muscle. The delay becomes the classroom where you learn how to depend on God completely. You stop chasing signs and start resting in His Word. You begin to realize that the process is as sacred as the promise itself. What you think is inactivity is actually divine activity. Behind the scenes, God is aligning circumstances, preparing people, and creating the right environment for your blessing to flourish. If it came too soon, it could destroy you. But in the right season, it will sustain you. There's a divine reason you haven't seen movement yet. Something within you or around you is still being aligned. Sometimes God holds back what you desire because He knows it would be smaller than what He plans to give you. When it feels like nothing is happening, shift your focus from frustration to faith. Every moment of delay is building spiritual capacity. It's creating roots deep enough to hold the fruit that's coming. Just because you can't see the evidence doesn't mean it's not unfolding. The seed doesn't stop growing just because it's hidden underground. God hides your blessing to protect it until it's ready to bloom. So instead of asking, when will it happen, begin saying, thank you, God, that it's happening. Praise Him not only for the promise, but also for the preparation. The waiting is not a punishment, it's positioning. Every delay has divine intention. When the appointed time arrives, what once seemed impossible will unfold effortlessly. The door will open, the promise will appear, and you'll realize that the delay was never a detour. It was the very thing that made the destination possible. God is not withholding, He's preparing. And when He's done, it will be worth every moment of the wait. The greatest secret of manifestation is not in asking repeatedly, it's in assuming the feeling of the answered prayer. The moment you believe that what you desire is already yours, the energy of your world begins to shift. You no longer live in lack, but in fulfillment. You no longer pray from desperation, but from gratitude. When you assume the feeling of the answer, you align yourself with the vibration of completion, and creation must obey that frequency. The outer world has no choice but to mirror the conviction you hold within. Belief always precedes evidence. Everything you now see began first as an unseen conviction in someone's mind. Faith works the same way. It's the inner acceptance of the unseen as already real. When you walk around believing that your prayer is answered, you begin to speak differently, think differently, and act differently. You shift from hoping it will happen to knowing it already has. That inner certainty becomes magnetic. The universe rearranges people, events, and opportunities to reflect the energy of that belief. Most people wait for evidence to believe. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. But spiritual law operates in reverse. You see it because you believe it. Your inner state is the seed, and the outer experience is the harvest. If your inner world is filled with doubt, fear, and waiting, that's exactly what your outer world will reproduce. But when you carry the feeling that it's already done, your outer life begins to conform to that assumption. It's not pretending. It's participating with divine creation. Think of yourself as the artist of your reality. The brush is your imagination, and your belief is the color that brings life to the canvas. When you hold the image of your answered prayer and let your emotions match it, peace, gratitude, joy, you begin to live from the end. You're no longer striving to make something happen, you're aligning with what already exists in the unseen. That alignment creates movement in the visible world. This principle isn't about ignoring what's real, it's about elevating your perception to a higher truth. You can acknowledge your current circumstances while still holding the feeling of your desired outcome. You can look at the present and still say, this too is working in my favor. When you live as if your miracle has already occurred, your actions naturally flow from that confidence. You stop worrying, you stop forcing outcomes, you start resting in assurance. Gratitude becomes your daily posture. Instead of asking, when will it happen? You begin saying, thank you, that it already has. That shift from asking to thanking is the mark of true faith. It tells the universe and God that you trust His timing, His method, and His wisdom. So close your eyes and imagine the feeling of the prayer already fulfilled. Feel the peace, the joy, the relief. Let it fill your entire being. That feeling is the bridge between your desire and its manifestation. Hold it, live in it, and soon the outer world will catch up to what you've already accepted within. Believe first and watch the evidence flow effortlessly into your life. Surrendering to the divine timeline is one of the highest forms of faith. It is the art of releasing control and trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, even when your mind cannot understand the pace or direction. It doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. It means resting in the awareness that God's plan for your life is far greater, wiser, and more beautiful than anything you could orchestrate on your own. Trusting the divine timeline requires humility. The humility to accept that your understanding is limited, but divine wisdom is infinite. When you truly surrender, you no longer force outcomes. You stop trying to rush what needs time to mature. You stop begging for doors to open before you're ready to walk through them. You realize that divine timing is not delay, it's precision. God's plan never runs late, it runs deep. Every event, every encounter, every pause is perfectly synchronized to prepare both you and the path ahead. The waiting is not wasted. It's weaving something eternal. We often believe we must make everything happen through effort and striving, but real trust begins when you learn to rest while you wait. Surrender is not idleness, it's inner alignment. It's choosing peace over panic, faith over fear, gratitude over anxiety. It's saying, God, I don't know how or when, but I know you do. In that space of surrender, the burden lifts. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable and begin to cooperate with divine flow. Every season of your life has a sacred rhythm. There's a time to sow, a time to grow, and a time to harvest. Trying to force a harvest before its season only brings frustration. But when you trust the divine timeline, you move in harmony with life itself. You understand that what's meant for you will never miss you, and what's not meant for you will never stay. The things that seem delayed are only being perfected. The people who left were part of the pruning process. The opportunities that didn't come through were protection disguised as disappointment. This is why surrender is the bridge between chaos and peace. It transforms waiting into worship. When you stop resisting the timing of your blessings, you open the door for divine acceleration. Ironically, the moment you stop trying to control the outcome is often the moment things begin to flow, because surrender aligns your energy with divine order, where miracles naturally unfold. So breathe deeply and let go of the timelines you've created in your mind. Let go of the pressure to make things happen on your schedule. Rest in the knowing that the universe, under God's command, is not working against you, it's working for you. The invisible forces are already arranging what belongs to you. Your only role is to keep your faith alive, to stay grateful in the waiting, and to trust that when the time is right, everything will unfold effortlessly. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on schedule, according to the divine timeline that never fails. Every moment of your life, every delay, every challenge, every breakthrough is part of a divine design working perfectly in your favor. You may not see all the pieces right now, but God does. He's arranging, aligning, and preparing everything you need to step into your destiny. The unseen rearrangement, your inner faith, your willingness to wait, your surrender, these are not random spiritual concepts. They are the tools that bridge the invisible and the visible. When you learn to trust the process, to hold the feeling of the answered prayer, and to release your need to control timing, life begins to unfold with divine ease. What once felt like chaos becomes clarity. What once felt like delay becomes direction. Every event begins to reveal its purpose. So walk forward with peace in your heart. Know that the hand of God is upon your life, shaping every experience into favor. Believe that even now, unseen forces are moving in your direction. Keep your faith steady, your spirit calm, and your words filled with gratitude. You are not waiting for things to work out. They already are. Trust the process, because the process itself is proof that you are on your divine path. Thank you for watching, and remember, everything is working in your favor. Stay in faith, stay grateful, and keep trusting the divine timing of your life.
Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to speak to you about one of the most misunderstood subjects in all of human experience: wealth. Not the accumulation of money, not the acquisition of possessions, not the manipulation of external circumstances to increase your bank balance. I want to speak to you about wealth as it truly is, a state of consciousness that you can enter right now, regardless of your current financial circumstances. Most people believe they will feel rich when they get money, but I tell you tonight that you will get money when you feel rich. This reversal of cause and effect is not wordplay. It is the fundamental principle upon which all manifestation operates. Wealth is not something you achieve. It is something you are. And you can be wealthy right now in this moment before a single external circumstance changes. The revelation that transformed my understanding of wealth came through observing a remarkable man who attended my lectures for months. He was well dressed, spoke with confidence, carried himself with natural authority, and radiated an unmistakable sense of prosperity. Other students would often ask him for business advice, assuming he was quite successful financially. One evening after a lecture, this same man approached me with a curious expression. "Neville," he said, "I must tell you something remarkable. Everyone here assumes I'm wealthy because of how I carry myself, and the truth is, I feel wealthy. Completely, genuinely wealthy. Yet my bank account tells a different story. I've been unemployed for 8 months and have very little money. But somehow I can't shake this feeling of abundance and prosperity. It feels more real than my circumstances." I looked at this man and said, "My friend, you have mastered the most important principle of wealth creation. You have learned to feel wealthy independent of external circumstances. Your consciousness of wealth is real. More real than your temporary financial condition. The external world must conform to your internal state." Within 6 weeks, this man had been offered a position that paid more than he had ever earned in his life. Within 6 months, he had become genuinely prosperous. But the most remarkable thing was this: his external transformation perfectly matched the internal state he had been maintaining all along. He had not faked wealth. He had felt wealthy, and feeling wealthy had attracted the circumstances that matched his consciousness. You see, money is not wealth. Money is merely the symbol of wealth, the external representation of an internal state. True wealth is a feeling, a consciousness of abundance, security, and freedom that exists completely independent of your bank balance. When you understand this distinction, you realize that you can be wealthy right now in this moment, regardless of how much money you currently possess. You can feel the security that money represents without having money. You can experience the freedom that wealth provides without being wealthy in financial terms. You can embody the consciousness of abundance before abundance appears in your bank account. But how do you feel rich when your circumstances seem to declare poverty? How do you embody wealth when your bills are unpaid and your account is empty? Let me tell you about a woman who discovered the answer to this question in the most practical way possible. She came to me drowning in debt, working 3 jobs to support her children, exhausted and desperate. Neville, she said, it's easy for you to talk about feeling wealthy, but I haven't had a full night's sleep in months because I'm worried about money. How can I feel rich when I can't even pay my rent? I said to her, you are trying to feel wealthy while focusing on the evidence of poverty. But consciousness cannot hold two opposite states simultaneously. You must learn to feel wealthy by focusing on what wealth feels like, not on what poverty looks like. I taught this woman a technique that changed her life forever. I said, every evening before sleep, I want you to lie in bed and feel what it would be like if all your financial worries were resolved. Don't think about how this could happen, just feel the relief, the security, the peace of mind that would come with having more than enough money. But how do I feel something that isn't true? She asked. By understanding that feelings are not dependent on facts, I replied. Right now, close your eyes and feel what it would be like to wake up tomorrow morning, knowing that all your bills were paid, that you had money in the bank, that you could provide generously for your children without struggle. Feel the lightness in your chest, the relaxation in your shoulders, the smile that would naturally come to your face. I guided her through this process step by step. Feel what it's like to check your bank account and see abundance instead of scarcity. Feel the confidence you would have in making financial decisions. Feel the generosity you could express toward others. Feel the security of knowing that money flows to you easily and consistently. She practiced this faithfully every night. At first it felt forced and unnatural because her daily reality contradicted these feelings. But gradually, something began to shift. The feelings of wealth became more natural, more automatic. She began to carry herself differently, speak differently, make decisions differently. Within 3 months, one of her part-time employers offered her a full-time position with benefits and a salary that was 3 times what she had been earning from all 3 jobs combined. Within a year, she had not only paid off all her debts, but had savings for the first time in her adult life. But the most remarkable transformation was in her relationship with money itself. She had stopped being afraid of money, stopped feeling guilty about wanting it, stopped believing that financial abundance was somehow wrong or unspiritual. She had learned to feel wealthy, and wealth had become her natural expression. This illustrates the most important truth about wealth consciousness. It's not about the amount of money you have. It's about how you feel about money and abundance. Some people with millions of dollars feel poor and insecure. Others with very little money feel abundant and free. The difference is not in their bank accounts, but in their consciousness. When you feel wealthy, you make decisions from abundance rather than scarcity. You speak about money with confidence rather than anxiety. You approach financial situations with calm certainty rather than desperate hope. And these changes in your consciousness create changes in your external circumstances. Let me share with you another story that perfectly illustrates this principle. A young entrepreneur came to me whose business was failing. He said, Neville, I've tried everything to save my company. I've cut expenses, worked longer hours, borrowed money from family. Nothing works. I'm facing bankruptcy, and I don't know what else to do. I observed that everything he was doing came from the consciousness of financial desperation. His actions, while practical, were motivated by fear and lack. I said to him, you are trying to create wealth from the consciousness of poverty. But poverty consciousness can only create more poverty, no matter how hard you work. I taught him to completely reverse his approach. Instead of focusing on saving his failing business, I showed him how to feel like a successful entrepreneur. Instead of worrying about bankruptcy, I guided him to experience the consciousness of financial success. Every morning before you go to your office, I instructed, spend 10 minutes feeling what it's like to run a thriving, profitable business. Feel the satisfaction of making wise financial decisions. Feel the confidence of someone whose company is growing and succeeding. Feel the peace of mind that comes with abundant cash flow. But my business is actually failing, he protested. How can I feel successful when the numbers say otherwise? Because feelings create facts, not the other way around, I replied. Your current financial facts are the result of your past financial feelings. If you want new facts, you must generate new feelings. Feel successful now, and success will follow. This man learned to separate his feeling state from his financial circumstances. While he continued to handle practical business matters responsibly, he did so from the consciousness of wealth rather than poverty. He felt like a successful businessman even when his bank account suggested otherwise. The transformation was remarkable. Within weeks, he began making business decisions with greater clarity and confidence. New opportunities appeared that he had never noticed before. Clients began responding to him differently. His entire approach to business changed because his consciousness had changed. Within 8 months, his business had not only recovered but had become more profitable than ever before. He had learned the secret of feeling wealthy before becoming wealthy, and this feeling had manifested as external success. Now let me address a common concern. Neville, if I feel wealthy when I'm not, am I lying to myself? Am I living in denial of my financial reality? The answer is that you are not denying your current financial circumstances. You are choosing to identify with a different level of truth. Your bank balance is one level of reality, but your consciousness is a deeper level of reality that can change any external circumstance. When you feel wealthy, you are not pretending that your bills don't exist. You are claiming the wealth that exists in consciousness and allowing it to manifest in physical form. You are not ignoring your current situation. You are creating a new situation through the power of feeling. Think of it this way. A seed planted in the ground does not deny that it is currently underground in darkness. But it does not identify with the darkness. It contains within itself the consciousness of the full-grown tree it will become. Your current financial circumstances are like the darkness around the seed. Your wealth consciousness is like the tree that already exists in potential. The key to feeling wealthy is to focus on what wealth represents rather than on money itself. Wealth represents security, freedom, peace of mind, the ability to be generous, the power to make choices based on preference rather than necessity. You can feel all of these things right now, regardless of your current bank balance. Let me tell you about a man who mastered this principle so completely that his transformation seemed miraculous to everyone who knew him. He was a taxi driver in New York City, working long hours for modest pay, supporting a large family in a small apartment. By all external measures, he was not wealthy, but this man had learned something profound. Wealth is a state of consciousness, not a financial condition. Every day as he drove his taxi, he would feel what it was like to be financially free. He would imagine that he was driving not out of necessity, but out of choice. He would feel the security of having abundant money in the bank. He would experience the peace of mind that comes with financial freedom. Most importantly, he would feel grateful for the abundance that already existed in his life. He appreciated his health, his family, his ability to work, the beauty of the city he drove through each day. He felt wealthy because he focused on the wealth of experience and opportunity that surrounded him constantly. One day, a passenger left a briefcase in his cab. When he returned it to the man's office, he discovered that the passenger was a successful businessman who had been looking for someone exactly like him. Honest, reliable, hardworking to manage a new venture. Within a year, this former taxi driver had become a partner in a thriving business. But the most remarkable thing was that he carried the same consciousness of abundance into his new circumstances that he had maintained while driving the taxi. Wealth had not changed his consciousness. His consciousness had attracted wealth. He had felt rich as a taxi driver, and feeling rich had made him rich. This brings us to one of the most important aspects of wealth consciousness: gratitude for what you already have. You cannot feel genuinely wealthy while focusing on what you lack. Wealth consciousness begins with appreciation for current abundance, no matter how modest it may appear. Look around your life right now and notice the wealth that already exists. You have a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes to wear, air to breathe. You have the capacity to think, to feel, to imagine, to choose. You have access to knowledge, to beauty, to human connection. When you truly appreciate what you already possess, you discover that you are already far wealthier than you realized. A woman once came to me complaining that she could never feel wealthy because she had so little money. I said to her, "Let me ask you something. How much would someone pay to have your eyesight if they were blind? How much would someone give to have your mobility if they were paralyzed? How much would someone pay to have your freedom if they were imprisoned? She began to cry as she realized the immense wealth she had been taking for granted. I never thought of it that way, she said. I am wealthy. I just hadn't been appreciating my wealth. From that moment forward, she began each day by feeling grateful for the abundance that already existed in her life. This gratitude created a consciousness of wealth that attracted even greater abundance. Within months, her financial situation had improved dramatically, but more importantly, she had learned to recognize and appreciate wealth in all its forms. The practice of feeling wealthy must become a daily discipline, especially in the moments before sleep when your subconscious mind is most receptive. Lie in bed each night and feel what it would be like if all your financial desires were fulfilled. Don't focus on the how or the when. Focus only on the feeling of having abundant money. Feel the security of knowing that you always have more than enough. Feel the freedom to make choices based on what you want rather than what you can afford. Feel the joy of being able to give generously to others. Feel the peace of mind that comes with financial abundance. Most importantly, feel grateful for the wealth that you are claiming. Gratitude seals the consciousness of abundance and makes it permanent in your awareness. But remember, feeling wealthy is not about greed or materialism. True wealth consciousness includes the wisdom to use money constructively, the generosity to share abundance with others, and the understanding that money is a tool for expressing your highest values, not an end in itself. When you feel genuinely wealthy, you naturally want to contribute to the welfare of others. You understand that abundance is meant to flow, not to be hoarded. You use your wealth to create beauty, to solve problems, to make the world a better place. I want to leave you with this truth. Wealth is your natural state. Abundance is your birthright. You were born to prosper, to thrive, to have more than enough for yourself, and plenty to share with others. Any feeling of lack or limitation is a temporary condition that exists only in consciousness and can be changed by changing your consciousness. Feel rich now, my friends, not because you have money, but because you are consciousness itself, and consciousness lacks nothing. Feel wealthy because abundance is the truth of your being. Feel prosperous because prosperity is your natural expression. The money will follow because money always flows toward the consciousness that feels worthy of receiving it. But more importantly, you will discover that true wealth was never about money at all. It was about recognizing the infinite abundance of being that you have always been. Feel rich now, and discover that you have always been richer than you ever dared to imagine. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform, not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.
I want to remind you today of a truth so powerful, yet so often overlooked. God is moving things in your favor, even when you cannot yet see it. Life may sometimes feel heavy. Obstacles may seem insurmountable. Doors may appear closed and paths unclear. But let me tell you this. All that you are experiencing is not a sign of defeat. It is preparation. It is the quiet, invisible work of divine forces, aligning circumstances in your favor. You see, the mind is the creative center of your life. What you assume to be true, what you imagine with feeling and conviction, shapes the reality you live in. Right now, I want you to close your eyes and feel the victory you desire. Imagine it as if it has already arrived. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude. This is not wishful thinking. This is the reality taking root in your consciousness. Faith is not simply believing in what you see. Faith is knowing in your heart that unseen forces are working tirelessly on your behalf. The universe is conspiring in ways too intricate for the human eye to follow. Even setbacks, even delays are part of a perfect plan designed to bring you the very best. Do not let despair whisper lies to you. Do not allow doubt to pull you away from the vision of your victory. Persist in your belief. Speak to yourself as one who has already won. Live each day as though your favor is unfolding, for in doing so you become a magnet for the blessings that are your due. Timing is divine. What is meant for you cannot be denied. Your present struggles are only temporary shadows before the dawn of triumph. Hold fast. Keep your mind and heart focused on the end, the glorious outcome that is already set in motion for you. So take courage today. Stand firm in the knowledge that God is moving things in your favor. Your victory is near. Your prayers are being answered. Your breakthrough is coming. Do not give up. Do not lose hope. The invisible is at work, and it will manifest in your life exactly as you have imagined and believed. Your faith, your imagination, your inner conviction, these are the tools God uses to move the world in your favor. Use them wisely and watch miracles unfold. Everything you see in the world begins as a thought, a spark of imagination that first exists within the mind before it takes shape in the external world. The life you are living right now is the result of countless images, feelings, and beliefs that you have held within yourself. Every situation, every encounter, and every circumstance started as an idea that was imagined, felt, and assumed to be real. The key to understanding this is recognizing that imagination is not merely a tool for creativity or daydreaming. It is the engine through which reality itself is formed. When you vividly imagine something and fully embody it with feeling, your inner state begins to align with that reality, setting into motion a series of events and conditions that inevitably bring that vision into the physical world. It is not enough to simply think of what you desire. Imagination must be felt as true in the present moment. The mind does not distinguish between what is imagined with intensity and what is physically real. When you immerse yourself in the sensation of having already achieved your goal, the universe responds to that inner certainty. Every thought, every mental image, and every emotion you cultivate acts like a signal that attracts corresponding circumstances. If you imagine lack, fear, limitation, you draw experiences that match those feelings. But if you imagine abundance, health, love, or success with the vividness of absolute conviction, you magnetize your life toward those outcomes. The power of imagination is not a distant concept or a mystical idea. It is the natural law through which your experiences are created. Consider for a moment how often you have relived a memory in your mind so vividly that it stirred real emotions, or how a strong visualization of a future event can bring excitement, nervousness, or even clarity in preparation. This same mechanism works for every aspiration you hold. The more detailed and emotionally charged your mental vision, the more real it becomes to your consciousness, and the more inevitable its manifestation becomes in the outer world. To harness this power, you must make imagination your daily practice. Enter into your desires as if they are already present. See them in your mind's eye with every detail. The colors, the sounds, the textures, and the interactions. Feel the satisfaction, the joy, the gratitude, and the peace of having already received what you long for. Live in the end of your desires rather than in the uncertainty of the process. The universe does not rush. It responds perfectly to the reality you have already established internally. Imagination is your most potent tool for shaping life. It is the unseen workshop where your future is crafted before it ever appears in the material world. By intentionally imagining with clarity, passion, and feeling, you do not merely wish for your dreams, you bring them into existence. What you hold in your mind as truth inevitably manifests outside of you because the outer world is but a reflection of your inner state. Every success, every relationship, and every opportunity begins as a vivid, heartfelt act of imagination, waiting only for your conscious awareness to bring it into being. Faith in the unseen is the quiet, unwavering trust that there is a divine intelligence working on your behalf, orchestrating every detail of your life, even when your eyes cannot perceive it. It is the conviction that beyond the apparent chaos, delays, or disappointments, there exists a perfect order aligning circumstances for your ultimate good. To have faith in the unseen is to recognize that reality is not limited to what is visible or measurable. It extends far beyond the physical realm into the invisible currents of possibility, divine timing, and providential guidance. When you trust in this invisible orchestration, you place yourself in harmony with forces greater than yourself, and this alignment allows miracles, breakthroughs, and blessings to unfold in ways that are often unexpected and far more magnificent than anything you could engineer alone. Life has a way of testing our faith through situations that appear contrary to our desires. A closed door, a financial setback, a broken relationship, or an unfulfilled goal may make it seem as though the universe has abandoned you. Yet it is precisely in these moments that faith in the unseen becomes most crucial. To see beyond appearances is to understand that nothing happens randomly, and nothing is truly wasted. Every event, no matter how discouraging it seems, is part of a larger plan designed to lead you to your highest good. When you hold on to faith in these moments, you are essentially telling the universe and yourself that you trust in the intelligence that governs life, that you are willing to let go of control, and that you know the outcome is already determined in your favor. Faith in the unseen is not passive. It is an active engagement of the mind and heart with what is not yet visible. It requires a conscious effort to believe in the reality of your desired outcome, as though it is already present. This means that even when circumstances suggest otherwise, you maintain a mental and emotional posture that affirms the unseen truth, that everything is working for your benefit. It is through this steadfast trust that you begin to perceive opportunities, guidance, and answers that would otherwise remain hidden. Your focus on the unseen creates a magnetic field that draws the visible into alignment with your inner certainty. Furthermore, faith in the unseen cultivates patience, resilience, and inner peace. When you surrender the need to control outcomes and instead trust in divine timing, you free yourself from fear, anxiety, and despair. You begin to move through life with a sense of purpose and confidence, knowing that every step is guided, every struggle is temporary, and every delay carries a hidden blessing. By choosing to believe in what is not yet apparent, you align yourself with the forces that will bring your dreams to fruition. Faith in the unseen is the recognition that life is orchestrated with precision, even when you cannot see the threads being woven together. It is the awareness that God, or the infinite intelligence of the universe, is always moving circumstances in your favor, shaping your reality, and ensuring that your desires manifest at the perfect moment. By trusting in the unseen, you participate in a process far greater than your understanding, allowing miracles to unfold naturally, powerfully, and beautifully in your life. Living in the end is the practice of fully embodying the reality of your desire before it has physically manifested. It is the conscious act of assuming the state of fulfillment, victory, or success as if it has already arrived, and allowing that inner experience to dominate your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Many people wait for external circumstances to confirm their success, happiness, or abundance, but in doing so, they invert the natural law of creation. The truth is that the outer world is a reflection of the inner state. When you live in the end, you align your consciousness with the reality you wish to manifest, and the external world must inevitably conform to that inner reality. To live in the end means to immerse yourself in the feelings, thoughts, and sensations of already having what you desire. If your goal is financial abundance, do not focus on scarcity or debt. Instead, feel the peace, confidence, and joy of being financially secure. If your goal is a fulfilling relationship, do not dwell on loneliness or rejection. Feel the love, warmth, and connection as if it is already yours. The imagination, when combined with emotion, creates a powerful vibration that shapes the circumstances of your life. By living as though your desire is already fulfilled, you establish a state of being that magnetizes the necessary people, opportunities, and events into your reality. Living in the end is not merely visualizing a goal. It is embodying it in every aspect of your consciousness. It requires discipline, focus, and a willingness to ignore the apparent facts of the present. The world may show delay, opposition, or lack, but these are only shadows that do not reflect the truth of your inner state. When you persist in assuming the end, you create a magnetic field that draws your desire to you effortlessly. Your thoughts, words, and actions begin to align naturally with the reality you are imagining, and your life starts to move in the direction of your chosen state. This practice also transforms the way you experience life moment to moment. You no longer live in anticipation or anxiety about the future. Instead, you inhabit a state of fulfillment, gratitude, and peace in the present. Your mind becomes a sanctuary of certainty, and your emotions become a confirmation of the reality you are creating. Every action you take flows from this inner state of having, making your efforts more powerful, intentional, and effective. By living in the end, you are not struggling to force outcomes. You are allowing your inner reality to shape the outer reality naturally and inevitably. The power of living in the end lies in its simplicity. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, maintain it consistently, and trust that the external world will adjust accordingly. This is the principle that underlies all true manifestation. The key is persistence and consistency in your inner assumption. For reality responds not to what you think you lack, but to the state you occupy in your consciousness. By living in the end, you take the place of the fulfilled self, and the universe responds, bringing every external confirmation to match the reality you have already assumed within. The dialogue you maintain with yourself is far more powerful than any external conversation you may have. Every thought, every mental phrase, every internal statement acts as a seed planting the blueprint for your future experiences. Your outer world is a reflection of the inner conversation you carry consistently. If you speak words of doubt, fear, or limitation to yourself, you are setting the stage for experiences that mirror those beliefs. Conversely, when your inner conversation is filled with faith, confidence, and the certainty of your desires fulfilled, your external circumstances inevitably begin to align with that truth. The mind is a fertile field, and the words and thoughts you nurture are the seeds that will grow into the reality you inhabit. Many people underestimate the impact of the silent dialogue within their own minds. We often listen attentively to the opinions of others, the news, or the circumstances around us. But the conversation that has the most influence is the one we have with ourselves, moment to moment. What you tell yourself about who you are, what you are capable of, and what you deserve becomes the lens through which you interpret reality. If your inner speech constantly questions your worth or capability, your external life will reflect uncertainty, hesitation, and obstacles. If, however, your inner speech affirms your strength, your resilience, and the inevitability of your success, the world responds in kind. Your inner world acts like a command center, orchestrating the events, people, and opportunities that manifest outside of you. The words you speak silently or aloud carry vibration and intention. Each affirmation, each declaration, each belief held firmly in thought sends a signal to your subconscious mind, which in turn programs your perception and attracts circumstances that match it. This is why it is essential to monitor and consciously shape your inner conversation. Replace thoughts of lack with thoughts of abundance. Replace fear with trust. Replace uncertainty with assurance. The internal dialogue must reflect the reality you wish to see, for the mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined thought and an actual occurrence. Nurturing constructive and empowering internal dialogue is not a passive task. It requires awareness and deliberate practice. Begin by listening to the habitual thoughts that arise in your mind. Observe the patterns and notice which ones are holding you back. Then consciously replace them with thoughts and statements that align with your desired reality. Speak to yourself as though you are already the person you wish to become. Celebrate the victories you imagine, affirm the accomplishments you desire, and cultivate the emotional state of having what you want. Over time, this consistent inner conversation becomes a powerful engine that drives your external life. Your external experiences are essentially the echo of your inner dialogue. By shaping your thoughts, nurturing empowering words, and consistently affirming your desired state, you are consciously designing the reality you inhabit. Inner conversation is not merely reflection, it is creation. The life you live tomorrow begins in the words you speak to yourself today. Through deliberate, inspired, and positive internal dialogue, you shape your destiny and allow the unseen forces of life to manifest your dreams into the tangible, visible world. Persistence in belief is the unwavering commitment to hold fast to the reality you desire, regardless of temporary setbacks, opposition, or apparent contradictions in the external world. Life often tests the strength of our convictions, presenting challenges that seem designed to shake our confidence. Doubt, fear, and uncertainty are natural responses to these trials, but it is in these moments that persistence becomes the determining factor between fleeting hope and lasting manifestation. To persist in belief is to maintain a firm, unyielding focus on the desired outcome, knowing with certainty that the result is already accomplished in the unseen, even if it has yet to appear in physical form. Belief is not a passive state. It is an active force that requires dedication and discipline. It is easy to feel confident and faithful when everything is going smoothly, but true persistence is measured in adversity. The world often presents circumstances that contradict our desires, that tempt us to surrender, or that encourage us to question the validity of our goals. To persist in belief under such conditions is to rise above the apparent reality and remain anchored in the vision of what you know to be true at the core of your consciousness. This steadfast focus sends a powerful signal to your inner mind, programming it to orchestrate circumstances in alignment with your unwavering conviction. Doubt and fear are the greatest enemies of manifestation because they fracture the mind, creating internal conflict that is reflected in the outer world. Every time you allow hesitation or uncertainty to influence your thoughts, you dilute the energy of your intention. Persistence in belief, on the other hand, strengthens your inner certainty, fortifying the bridge between imagination and reality. It is through repeated focus, sustained feeling, and continuous assumption of the desired state that your inner world becomes a magnet for external fulfillment. Even if evidence in the material world appears contrary, your persistent belief overrides appearances and maintains the trajectory of your manifestation. Persistence is not blind stubbornness. It is intelligent consistency. It requires you to nurture your vision daily, to dwell in the end of your desire, to feed your mind with thoughts and feelings that align with the reality you intend to create. Each time a challenge arises, rather than succumbing to discouragement, you reaffirm your faith. You remind yourself that the unseen forces of life are arranging the perfect circumstances, that your goal is already realized in consciousness, and that nothing can prevent its manifestation. This continuous, disciplined practice of persistence transforms obstacles into stepping stones, resistance into guidance, and delays into preparation for something even greater than you imagined. The power of persistence in belief lies in its ability to transform your inner state into an unshakable foundation for creation. When you refuse to let doubt or fear dominate, when you consistently dwell in the reality of your fulfilled desire, the outer world is compelled to conform to your inner certainty. The universe responds to the strength of conviction more than to the logic of appearances. Persistence is the secret that turns dreams into reality, challenges into triumphs, and waiting into fulfillment. By holding unwavering faith in what you desire, you create a momentum that carries your vision from the realm of imagination into the tangible world, where it manifests exactly as you have believed. Divine timing and alignment is the understanding that everything in life unfolds according to a perfect, invisible order, a rhythm that transcends human control. The events, encounters, and opportunities that shape your journey do not occur randomly. They are orchestrated with precision by a force far greater than your limited perception. The meaning to grasp this principle is to recognize that your role is not to force or manipulate outcomes, but to remain in harmony with the current of life, to move in accordance with the unseen guidance that is constantly arranging circumstances in your favor. Trusting in divine timing is not a passive surrender. It is an active, conscious alignment of your thoughts, feelings, and actions with the natural flow of the universe, often we become impatient when our desires do not manifest according to our own timetable. We judge delays as failures, setbacks as signs of futility, and obstacles as insurmountable. Yet these interruptions are rarely what they appear to be. Each delay, each seeming disappointment, is a necessary part of the larger design. They serve to prepare you, to refine your awareness, and to align your inner state with the reality you wish to experience. By resisting the flow or trying to force outcomes prematurely, you create tension and misalignment. By contrast, when you trust in divine timing, you cultivate patience and an inner calm that allows life to unfold seamlessly, bringing the right circumstances into your experience at exactly the right moment. Alignment is the key to working effectively with divine timing. Your internal state, your beliefs, emotions, and assumptions must harmonize with the outcome you desire. The universe responds not to the urgency of your demand, but to the consistency of your inner alignment. When your thoughts, feelings, and expectations are in agreement with the end result, you create a resonance that draws circumstances to you naturally. Misalignment, on the other hand, produces resistance, delays, and frustration, because the energy you emit does not match the reality you wish to manifest. The practice of alignment involves maintaining faith, imagining your desire as already fulfilled, and remaining receptive to the invisible forces guiding your path. Divine timing also reminds us that life is always unfolding perfectly, even when we cannot see the full picture. What appears as delay may be a protective measure, ensuring that the right people, resources, or opportunities arrive at precisely the right moment. What seems like an obstacle may be a lesson that strengthens your readiness for what is to come. By cultivating awareness and trust, you begin to perceive the invisible threads connecting events, actions, and outcomes, realizing that every step has meaning and purpose. Embracing divine timing and alignment liberates you from frustration, doubt, and the illusion of control. It allows you to move with confidence, knowing that your desires are being fulfilled according to the perfect plan. Your task is simply to remain aligned, maintaining the inner state of the wish fulfilled, trusting in the unseen orchestration, and allowing life to flow through you without resistance. When you do this, you position yourself to receive the blessings, opportunities, and miracles that are already set in motion for you. By aligning with this invisible guidance, you discover that everything happens at the perfect moment, and the fulfillment of your desires becomes inevitable, effortless, and beautifully timed. In closing, remember this: no matter what challenges you face, no matter how long the wait may seem, God is moving everything in your favor. Your imagination, your faith, your persistence, and your alignment with divine timing are shaping the life you desire even now. The unseen is always at work, orchestrating circumstances, opening doors, and preparing you for the blessings that are already on their way. Trust the process, remain steadfast in your belief, and continue to live as if your victory has already arrived. Your task is simple: hold fast to hope, nurture your inner state, and allow the divine to manifest your desires perfectly. Everything is working for you, even when it seems otherwise. The breakthrough, the joy, the success, it is all closer than you think. Stay patient, stay faithful, and keep your focus unwavering. Thank you for taking the time to listen and to invest in your growth today. May your heart remain full of hope, your mind clear with vision, and your life aligned with the infinite blessings already being prepared for you. Thank you.
You are God. I'm not saying this in a metaphorical or spiritual sense. I'm saying this in a literal and factual sense. You are God, and you have the power to create anything you want in life with the power of your mind. Neville Goddard, a visionary philosopher, dared to unveil the profound power of assumption, revealing how by consistently believing we already possess our desires, we can orchestrate the events of our lives. While Neville Goddard's teachings on the law of assumption are often associated with the law of attraction, he actually saw them as two distinct concepts. He believed that the law of attraction, which states that we attract what we focus on, was an incomplete understanding of the power of our minds. According to Goddard, it's not enough to simply focus on positive thoughts and affirmations. We must also change our deep-seated assumptions about ourselves and our reality. This is where the law of assumption comes in. According to Neville Goddard, the law of assumption is the only law that governs the manifestation of your desires. He said that the law of attraction is secondary and that it only works when it is aligned with the law of assumption. He said that the law of attraction is the effect and the law of assumption is the cause. But how do you assume that you already have your desire when your current reality seems to contradict it? Keep on watching, because I'm about to reveal the secret of how to actually do that. First, I'm going to show you how the law of assumption works. The law of assumption works by using the power of your imagination and your feeling to impress your subconscious mind with your new reality. Your subconscious mind is the creative power that manifests everything in your life according to your dominant beliefs and assumptions. Your subconscious mind does not reason, judge, or question. It simply accepts whatever you impress upon it as true and reflects it back to you in your outer world. Therefore, if you want to change your outer world, you have to change your inner world. And the way to do that is to assume the feeling of your wish being fulfilled. To assume the feeling of your wish being fulfilled, you have to imagine that you already have your desire and feel the emotions that come with it. You have to act as if it is already done, not as if it is going to be done. You have to live in the end, not in the means. Jim Carrey, a famous actor and comedian, did exactly this. When he was struggling to make a name for himself in Hollywood, wrote himself a check for $10 million and dated it Thanksgiving 1995. He carried the check in his wallet and looked at it every day, imagining that he had already received it for his acting services. He acted as if he was already a successful and wealthy actor and lived in the end result of his desire. In 1994, he got his breakthrough role in the movie Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, which was a huge hit and launched his career. In 1995, he was offered $10 million to star in the movie Dumb and Dumber, which was released in December of that year. He achieved his goal of earning $10 million by Thanksgiving 1995, just as he had written on his check. By following examples like this, you create a new state of consciousness, a new vibration, a new reality. And by the law of assumption, your new reality must manifest in your physical world because it is already true in your consciousness. To make this easier for you, here are 3 simple steps that you can follow to apply the law of assumption and manifest your desire fast. The first step is to choose your desire. What do you want to manifest? Carefully select your deepest desire. What is it that you yearn to bring into manifestation? The possibilities are boundless, whether it's a salary increase, an upgraded living space, finding at last your true love, overcoming health challenges, unlocking new levels of success and happiness, or just anything else that you desire, it can become yours. The only limit is your imagination. But make sure that your desire is something that you really want, not something you think you should want or something that others want for you. Your desire should be something that makes you feel excited, passionate, and joyful. Once you have chosen your desire, write it down in a clear and positive way. For example, if you want to manifest more money, you can write something like, "I am wealthy and abundant. I have more than enough money to live the life of my dreams." Or if you want to manifest a loving relationship, you can write something like, "I am in a happy and harmonious relationship with my soulmate. We love and respect each other deeply." The second step is to assume the feeling of your wish being fulfilled. This is the most important and powerful step because it's the one that activates the law of assumption and impresses your subconscious mind with your new reality. To assume the feeling of your wish being fulfilled, you have to imagine that you already have your desire and feel the emotions that come with it. There are many ways to do this, but one of the most effective ones is to use a technique called the "I remember when" method. This technique was also taught by Neville Goddard, and it consists of remembering a time when you didn't have your desire and contrasting it with the present moment when you do have it. For example, if you want to manifest more money, you can say to yourself, "I remember when I was struggling to pay my bills, and now I have more than enough money to live the life of my dreams." Or, if you want to manifest a loving relationship, you can say to yourself, "I remember when I was lonely and single, and now I'm in a happy and harmonious relationship with my soulmate." The key is to say these statements with conviction and feeling as if they were true right now. Don't say them as a wish or a hope, but as a fact. Feel the gratitude, the joy, the relief, the confidence, the love that comes with having your desire. Feel it in your body, in your heart, in your soul. Feel it as if it were real, because it is real. You are creating it with your imagination and your feelings. The third and final step is to persist in your assumption. This means you have to maintain the feeling of your wish being fulfilled and act as if you already have your desire until it manifests in your physical reality. Don't let doubt, fear, or negative thoughts interfere with your assumption. Don't look for signs, evidence, or validation from the outside. Don't worry about how, when, or where your desire will manifest. Just trust that it will, because it has to. The law of assumption is a law, not a theory. It works for everyone all the time, without exception. Whatever you assume to be true with conviction and feeling will become true and your reality. It's as simple as that. But you have to be consistent and persistent in your assumption. You have to live from the end and not from the middle. You have to act as if you already have your desire and not as if you're waiting for it. This may seem challenging at first, especially if your current reality seems to contradict your desire. But remember, your current reality is only a reflection of your past assumptions. It has nothing to do with your present or future assumptions. You can change your reality by changing your assumptions, and you can do it right now by following the 3 simple steps we just talked about. To make this even more effective and powerful, keep the following in mind. Ignore your current reality. Don't let the external circumstances or evidence contradict your assumption. Remember that your imagination is the only true reality and that your current situation is only a reflection of your past thoughts. Focus on your desired state and act as if it is already yours. Say yes to everything. Don't argue with or resist anything that happens in your life. Instead, accept everything as a part of your manifestation process. Say yes to whatever comes your way and trust that it is leading you to your desired outcome. Always return to your assumption. Whenever you feel doubtful or fearful, remind yourself of your assumption and the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Repeat your affirmations, visualize your desired scene, or listen to subliminal messages that support your assumption. Don't let negative emotions take over your mind. Proclaim affirmations. Affirmations are positive statements that you repeat to yourself to reinforce your belief and confidence. You can use affirmations to overcome your doubts and fears and to affirm your desired state. For example, you can say, "I am confident and fearless. I am worthy and deserving of my desire," or "I am living my wish fulfilled." Embrace your fears and doubts. Sometimes the best way to overcome your fears and doubts is to face them head-on. Instead of avoiding or suppressing them, acknowledge them and let them go. You can do this by writing them down, talking to someone, or doing a meditation or a clearing process. By releasing your fears and doubts, you can make room for more positive and empowering thoughts. If you follow these guidelines, you will realize your dreams, choose your desire, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and persist in your assumption. Watch as your life transforms before your eyes. You are the creator of your reality, and you can create anything you want with the power of your mind. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get notified about more content like this.
There comes a sacred moment when life whispers, "Enough waiting, now it's time." You have walked through seasons that stripped you of things you thought would never leave: people, opportunities, peace, finances. They seemed to vanish, yet nothing was truly lost. Everything that slipped from your hands was not stolen. It was being sanctified, refined, and realigned in the unseen to return greater than before. You are not in a season of loss. You are in a season of divine restoration. God has already set in motion a reversal in your favor. The same power that raised you once will raise you again, but higher. Every ending was an invitation to a beginning beyond your understanding. The pain that broke you was not punishment, it was preparation. The silence you endured was not emptiness, it was incubation. The seeming delays were divine recalibrations, ensuring that when the restoration comes, it will fit your destiny perfectly. You see, restoration begins not outside you, but within. The moment you change your inner perception, your outer reality begins to mirror it. When you stop seeing yourself as the one who lost and start seeing yourself as the one who has been restored, life rearranges itself to confirm your belief. The unseen responds to your faith. When you declare, "Everything I lost is returning to me in divine order," heaven begins to conspire for your good. You don't have to chase restoration. You have to embody it, feel it, see it, know it. Act as though it's already done, because it is. Every tear that fell was a seed. Every disappointment was a planting ground for new manifestation. God never allows subtraction without multiplication on the way. What seemed like the end was the ground clearing for the new structure being built. The very things that were removed were creating space for the extraordinary to enter. This is your moment. This is the hour when divine timing meets divine intention. Everything that felt wasted, time, energy, love, faith, is now returning to you multiplied. You are not going backward. You are being realigned with what was always yours. Do not dwell on the past. Speak to the now. Say within yourself, "I am restored. My life is flourishing again. Everything I thought I lost has returned in greater measure. When you affirm it in consciousness, creation must respond, for what you accept inwardly becomes fact outwardly. So lift your head. The chapter of lack is over. The cycle of restoration has begun. Doors you once knocked on are now opening from the inside. The opportunities you thought were gone are circling back, renewed, refined, and ready. Love is being rekindled, peace is being reinstated, and purpose is being reignited. This is your divine appointment, not next year, not next month, now. The power that governs all creation is turning in your favor. Everything is being restored, reorganized, and resurrected for your good. Walk as though it's already done. Speak as though it's already yours, because it is. You are stepping into the season of restoration. Your time is now. And restoration is not coming, it has already begun within you. The divine work is not something you are waiting for. It is something that has already been set in motion the moment you decided to believe again. Everything you thought was lost is not gone. It has simply shifted dimensions, moving from the visible to the invisible, from the seen to the unseen, awaiting your recognition. You are not standing outside the process of restoration. You are the center of it. The moment your awareness accepts that life is still working for you, the hidden order begins to rearrange itself in your favor. There is a sacred law that governs all creation. Nothing ever truly disappears. It only changes form. The relationships that ended, the opportunities that dissolved, the doors that closed, they are not your losses, but divine exchanges. What you once held in your hands is now being multiplied in the unseen, waiting for the signal of your faith to return greater than before. Every shift, every silence, every setback was an invisible preparation for a visible comeback. The world will tell you that you need to wait for signs, for evidence, for something tangible to prove that restoration is happening. But divine truth whispers otherwise. The restoration begins the moment you feel it within. When you dare to say it is already done, life begins to echo that declaration. The invisible responds to your conviction, not your condition. As long as you continue to see yourself as broken, life will mirror brokenness. But when you begin to see yourself as whole again, when you stand in the knowing that all has been restored, the outer world must bow to that new inner reality. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on your recognition. The unseen realm is not idle. It is alive with activity, rearranging, realigning, and restoring every fragment of your story. But it responds to awareness. You must awaken to the truth that you are not the victim of your past. You are the vessel of divine recreation. The seed of restoration is already planted in your consciousness, and your faith is the sunlight that draws it into form. Do not look back at what was, look within at what is being renewed. The restoration has already begun because the energy of life never pauses, it evolves. Every tear that fell watered the soil of new beginnings. Every prayer you whispered in silence set something sacred in motion. You do not need to force the process, you only need to align with it. Speak restoration, feel restoration, believe restoration. In this very moment, the universe is responding to your inner vision. The rearrangement has started. What was once chaotic is finding divine order. What was once empty is being filled. And what was once lost is returning, clothed in new glory. Everything you lost is not gone. It is simply waiting for you to see it again through the eyes of faith. The moment you recognize it, you will realize that the restoration never left. It has always been within you, unfolding quietly, faithfully, and perfectly. Nothing was ever truly lost. It was preparing to return multiplied. Every loss you experienced, every door that closed, every person who walked away, none of it was the end. It was transition disguised as loss. The divine never subtracts without the intention to multiply. What seemed taken was only being transformed, refined, and elevated to meet you at a higher level of consciousness. The universe never takes something away to leave you empty. It removes only what can no longer serve your next chapter. Everything that left your life was making room for something greater, purer, and more aligned with who you are becoming. When you look back on the things that faded, you may see pain and endings, but in the unseen realm, something sacred was taking place. The energy of what you lost was being restructured, its essence purified, its purpose renewed. What once felt like loss was divine redirection, guiding you from what was comfortable to what is destined. Every ending carried within it a hidden promise that what was removed would return, not as it was, but as something multiplied, matured, and magnified. Divine law never takes without giving greater. The scales of the universe are always balanced, though at times invisible to human eyes. When something leaves, something else is being prepared to arrive, greater in quality, deeper in meaning, and higher in vibration. The relationships that ended taught you self-worth. The opportunities that dissolved taught you faith. The silence that lingered taught you stillness. You were not being stripped, you were being strengthened. And in that strengthening, you became ready for more, for the multiplied return of what once seemed lost. Think of it as a seed buried beneath the soil. To the eye, it appears gone, consumed by the earth. But in truth, it is growing unseen, breaking apart to release its greater potential. The process looks like loss, but is actually transformation. So too, everything in your life that seemed to disappear was only going underground, preparing to rise again in multiplied form. You may not see it yet, but the return is inevitable. What was taken from one level will reappear in another, elevated and overflowing. Do not mourn what was, rejoice for what is being prepared. The divine does not withhold, it refines. The waiting is not punishment, it is protection. What is yours cannot be lost, it can only evolve. Every detour, every heartbreak, every delay was part of that divine refinement. The things you cried over are being reborn in beauty. The things you let go of returning with blessing. So release the need to cling to what was. Trust that the return is already in motion. The universe is not empty, it is abundant. It owes you nothing because it is already fulfilling its law, that nothing leaves your life without something greater on its way. What was removed is not gone. It is being refined to return in glory, carrying more love, more purpose, and more power than before. The seeming losses were never losses at all. They were divine investments waiting to pay back, multiplied. ChatGPT said, "You are the vessel of restoration. Everything you seek to regain, rebuild, or renew begins within you. The world outside is not the source of your restoration. It is merely the reflection of your inner state of consciousness. The moment you decide to see yourself as whole again, the universe begins to arrange itself in agreement with that vision. The outer world cannot resist the command of inner conviction. Life always mirrors the truth you hold about yourself. When you see yourself as broken, circumstances will echo that belief, showing you fragments and lack. But when you begin to perceive yourself as restored, as someone who has already risen, already healed, already reclaimed, life must reorganize itself to match that vision. This is divine law. The inner image shapes the outer world. You are not waiting for things to change. You are waiting for your perception to shift. Restoration does not start when the problem ends. It starts the moment you decide to stop identifying with the wound. Within you is the creative power that molds reality. Every thought you sustain, every image you nurture, every feeling you entertain becomes the blueprint of what manifests around you. The universe does not respond to need, it responds to awareness. When you see yourself as lacking, you broadcast lack. But when you declare inwardly, I am whole, I am complete, I am restored, you send forth an energy that draws everything needed for that reality to take form. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the creator of experience. The restoration you long for will not arrive through effort alone, but through awareness. It is not about forcing things to happen, but allowing the inner truth to unfold outwardly. You must step into the knowing that the same divine intelligence that created worlds is working through you, as you, for you. The power that restores universes resides in your consciousness, awaiting your command. See yourself as restored, even if nothing yet appears to have changed. Speak as if the miracle has already occurred. Feel as though the restoration is complete, and let that feeling anchor within you. The outer world must obey that vibration. It has no choice. You are the lawgiver of your reality, and your belief is the decree that sets it in motion. Every image you hold in your imagination is a seed planted in the field of creation. The stronger your conviction, the quicker the manifestation. Do not wait for life to prove to you that you are restored. Prove it to life by the way you think, feel, and walk. Restoration is not a future event, it is a present identity. When you embody the wholeness you seek, you attract experiences that confirm it. You become the mirror that reflects divine completion. The outer world can only echo what you hold within. So see yourself whole again. Feel the joy of being renewed, the peace of being restored, and watch as life rises to meet that vision. For when the vessel believes, creation obeys. ChatGPT said, the delay was divine alignment, not denial. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every silent stretch of waiting was never rejection. It was redirection. What you thought was God withholding was actually God preparing. The timing of your life has always been sacred. Even when it felt unbearable, you were never forgotten. You were being positioned. Every delay you encountered was aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities in perfect order, so that when your breakthrough arrived, nothing could shake it. The stillness you mistook for absence was the stillness of divine orchestration. In moments of waiting, the human mind grows restless. You wonder if your faith failed, if your effort wasn't enough, or if heaven turned away. But divine timing is not measured by human impatience. What feels like delay is often divine protection. You may have wanted something prematurely, but God knew that premature blessings can become burdens. The delay was not punishment, it was mercy disguised as silence. It was ensuring that your foundation was strong enough to hold the weight of what's coming. Every closed door was an act of guidance. Had you walked through the wrong one, it would have led you away from your purpose. Those rejections you cried over were actually redirections toward alignment. Life knew what you could not yet see, that some opportunities would have diminished your vision, that some relationships would have distracted your spirit, that some paths would have taken you further from your divine assignment. So the doors closed, not to confine you, but to define you. They closed so that you could be refined in the waiting, so that when the right door opened, you would walk through it in strength and clarity. The quiet seasons too were sacred. When nothing seemed to move, the most important work was being done within you. Stillness is never stagnation, it is preparation. In silence, faith is tested, patience is forged, and character is deepened. What you learned in those quiet moments, how to trust unseen promises, how to find peace without evidence, how to keep believing when everything was still. Those were lessons that shaped your elevation. Without the waiting, you would not be ready to sustain the blessing. The truth is, divine alignment requires coordination far beyond your sight. The universe was moving pieces, shifting hearts, and rearranging events to bring you into harmony with your destiny. If even one moment had come earlier, it would have been incomplete. So every not yet was actually not this way. Every pause was purposeful. Every silence had a sound, the sound of something greater forming behind the scenes. Now, as you look back, you will begin to see that what you call delay was divine timing unfolding in perfect rhythm. Nothing was wasted, nothing was denied. Everything was being positioned to serve your rise. The closed doors made room for better ones, and the waiting seasons made you ready for them. The alignment was happening all along, quietly, faithfully, and beautifully, for your elevation, not your abandonment. ChatGPT said, "The voice of faith must speak louder than memory. Too often we live bound by echoes of what once was. Mistakes, betrayals, losses, and disappointments replaying like a broken record in the mind. Memory has a powerful voice. It reminds you of what went wrong, who left, and how deeply you were hurt. But memory belongs to the past, and if you let it lead, it will keep you anchored in what no longer exists. Faith, on the other hand, speaks from the unseen. It declares what is becoming, not what has been. Faith doesn't consult memory. It consults divine truth. It doesn't look backward. It looks forward. To walk in restoration, you must choose which voice you will listen to. Memory says it's over. Faith says it's only beginning. Memory says you failed. Faith says you are being refined. Memory clings to old evidence, but faith creates new evidence. Every time you choose to speak words of faith, instead of replaying old pain, you shift your vibration. The energy of faith calls life into motion, while the energy of memory freezes it in the past. You cannot move into what's being reborn if you keep rehearsing what broke. There is great power in rehearsal. Whatever you repeat, you reinforce. If you continually rehearse your pain, you give it life. If you rehearse your faith, you awaken creation. When you begin to rehearse restoration, when you speak of what is unfolding instead of what is gone, you open the door for miracles. Life responds to the script you keep speaking. So rewrite it. Instead of replaying betrayal, speak renewal. Instead of reliving disappointment, speak transformation. Instead of mourning what ended, Declare what's arising. The mind is a garden. Memory plants the past, faith plants the future. You choose which seed to water. Every thought, every affirmation, every inner conversation builds the atmosphere around you. When the voice of faith becomes stronger than the memory of loss, restoration becomes inevitable. Faith speaks in present tense. It says, I am whole now, even when the evidence has not yet appeared. That declaration carries creative power. It begins to rewrite the patterns of your life from the inside out. You cannot enter a new chapter while reading the old one aloud. Silence the echoes of what broke. Let the past be a teacher, not a home. Faith will always call you higher, to believe in what your senses cannot yet verify, to see life as already redeemed, to know that nothing good truly ends. What broke was not destruction, it was transformation. What was shattered is now being reshaped. So stop giving memory your microphone. Hand it back to faith. Let faith narrate your life. Let it remind you that endings are illusions, that rebirth is constant, that every fall was preparation for flight. The more you speak from faith, the more your world will begin to resemble it. Stop replaying what broke. Start rehearsing what's being reborn, because creation responds to the voice that dares to believe again. This is your appointed hour, the moment you've prayed for, waited for, and often doubted would ever come. It's here. The delays, the detours, the long nights of uncertainty have all led you to this divine intersection where purpose meets timing. What once felt out of reach is now unfolding with ease. What seemed impossible is now inevitable. The season of divine restoration has arrived for you, and everything that once worked against you is now working in your favor. There is a rhythm in the universe that governs all things, a divine order that ensures nothing arrives too early or too late. You are now standing in that sacred alignment. The time of waiting has served its purpose. The preparation is complete. The soil of your soul has been tilled by patience, faith, and endurance. Every prayer, every tear, every act of perseverance was not in vain. It was building momentum for this moment. This is the hour where everything begins to make sense. The dots that never seem to connect will suddenly align, revealing a picture of divine intelligence beyond human reasoning. You may not have seen the evidence while waiting, but heaven has been active behind the veil. The same unseen hand that carried you through the valley is now lifting you into visibility. The tides have shifted. The energy that once resisted you is now assisting you. The things that seemed distant are now drawing near. This is not a coincidence. It is divine timing manifesting in your favor. Every closed door that once frustrated you was secretly preserving you for this exact moment of unveiling. This appointed hour is not just about what happens to you, it's about what's happening through you. You have been refined by fire, and now you carry a strength that cannot be shaken. The lessons learned in the silence have shaped a wisdom that will guide your next chapter. The tests that nearly broke you have become the foundation of unshakable faith. You are no longer who you were when the journey began. You are who you needed to become for this season to unfold. Now watch as what you once dreamed begins to materialize. Opportunities that seemed impossible will find you. Relationships that align with your purpose will appear. Finances, favor, healing, and peace will flow where struggle once stood. The doors that stayed closed are about to open, not by your force, but by divine decree. What once seemed impossible is now the natural outcome of your alignment. So lift your head and steady your heart. This is your time, not someday, not eventually, now. The universe has issued its command. Restore, return, renew. The waiting season has expired and manifestation has begun. All that you've endured has prepared you for this unveiling. This is your appointed hour, the hour where faith meets fulfillment, where prayer meets promise, and where every impossible thing becomes inevitable. Some say the season of divine restoration has arrived for you, and nothing can stop what has already been written in your favor. ChatGPT said, everything you've walked through, every loss, delay, silence, and closed door was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. The divine has been crafting something extraordinary behind the scenes, working through every disappointment, shaping every detour, and aligning every moment to bring you into this season of restoration. What once felt like chaos was actually divine choreography. Nothing was wasted. Every experience carried purpose, every tear carried power, and every waiting season carried preparation. Now you stand at the threshold of fulfillment. The time of waiting is over. The restoration is not coming, it has come. The things that once seemed shattered are being pieced back together in divine order, stronger and more beautiful than before. You are no longer defined by what was lost, but by what is being renewed within you. The divine plan that once seemed delayed is now unfolding in your favor with perfect precision. Walk forward with confidence. Speak faith louder than fear. See yourself not as the one who suffered, but as the one who rose. Everything that left your life is returning multiplied. Everything that felt broken is being reborn. This is your divine turning point. The moment where loss gives way to abundance, confusion gives way to clarity, and hope turns into manifestation. So lift your eyes, lift your heart, and lift your voice in gratitude. The season of divine restoration is not ahead of you. It is here, now, moving through you and around you. Your waiting was never in vain. The promise was never denied. The blessing has found its appointed time, and that time is now. Thank you for allowing these words to reach your spirit. May they remind you that you are never forgotten, never forsaken, and never outside the reach of divine grace. Everything is being restored, fully, perfectly, and beautifully. Your time has come. Thank you for listening, and may restoration overflow in every area of your life.